Bismillah, sound is good? It's good? Jazakum khairan. All right. Yeah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathiran. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Tonight's lesson is a continuation of Fiqh of Hasad, Sheikh Mustafa al-Adawi. And we're coming up upon the tail end of the book. Alhamdulillah. We should be on page number 83. And the book has 96 pages. So inshallah ta'ala we'll have the ability to finish the book hopefully within 2 to 3 classes. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala wa tawfiqihi. So on page number 83 the author states Al-farqu bayna al-a'ini wal-hasid. He speaks on the differences between the one who afflicts people with his eye and the one who is envious and jealous. Hasad and ayn. The hasid, the performer of the hasad, and the ayn, the one who sees something or looks at something and something happens, as we all know. The author, he quotes Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah by saying, قال ابن القيم رحمه الله والعين والحاسد يشتركان في شيء ويفترقان في شيء فيشتركان في أن كل واحد منهما تتكيف نفسه وتتوجه نحو من يريد أذاه فالعين تتكيف نفسه عند مقابلة المعين ومعاينته والحاسد يحصل له ذلك عند غيبة المحسود وحضوره أيضا. He says, so both of these two people, each of these two people, they share things and things in which they're different. There are things in which they're the same, places, actions, statements, situations in which they're the same, And then there are others in which they're totally different. He says the thing that they both share, the thing that they have in common, the parallel, he says, is that tatakayyafu nafsuhu, is that the soul, the spirit, the inside of the ayn or the hasid is shot at as victim was target. What's on the inside of the ayn, what's on the inside of the hasid, it comes out, it is directed, it's aimed, it's launched towards the one that is victim, whatever word you want to use. The one that has something nice, the one that has something that the person doesn't have, or she shows him something that he never saw before, he never heard of before, this model, this edition, etc. Tatakayyafu nafsuhu. Is that the nafs? The inside? It has a way. How is that way? Allah surely knows best. We as Muslims believe in the unseen, and we as Muslims also know alam al-insana, that Allah has taught man that which man knew not of science. And there is no contradiction between that which is clear, that which is factual, that which is established as a scientific fact, and the unseen. And that Allah Azza wa Jal causes this, allows that, decrees this, sends this, removes that, afflicts this one with that, takes it, protects another one from it, etc. And it doesn't mean that there aren't tangible, material, scientific means behind it as well. Like a car accident. Allah decreed for a person to get into a car accident. Allah decreed for this person only to live these amount of years. He's going to die at class. That's something which is unseen. And at the same time, the person died in a car accident because it was black ice outside. Or he got hit by a drunk driver and he didn't have on a seatbelt. And the autopsy showed this happened, that happened, his lung was collapsed, etc., etc. There's no contradiction, there's no fight between the two. So therefore he says that the soul, the nafs of both of these individuals, somehow, some way it comes out. And it is aimed at the one that is going to be on the receiving end of the ayn or the hasad. Number two, or he says here, he says, نَحْوَ مَنْ يُرِيدُ أَذَاهُ. He says that the soul of these two people, these two individuals, it comes out, it's guided, it's directed to the one that they wish to harm. The one that they wish to annoy and bother. They want someone's adha, someone's harm, by seeing it, or having the hasad, and there you go. He says, so the ayn, that's the one when he sees something. And as far as the hasad, then in most cases is when the person is absent. Then the envy is really spewed out. But it can also take place in person as well. Now stop and think about that. Many people, if not most people who have envy, severe envy, they suffer from envy, do they really show the envy in public? Sometimes they do, from time to time. But in most cases, it's behind your back. It's behind closed doors. In most cases, a person who's a victim of that type of envy, in most cases, is extremely cowardly. And they see the person that they hate or that they envy, they put on a dumb fake smile, or they act very awkward, and then behind closed doors, they're punching the wall, fuming, enraged with anger, because they don't have what this woman, what this man has, etc. And there are other times in which the hasad is what? In person as well, live performance. Move forward. ويفترقان في أن العين قد يصيب من لا يحسده من جماد أو حيوان أو زرع أو مال وإن كان لا يكاد ينفك من حسد صاحبه وربما أصابت عينه نفسه فإن رؤيته للشيء رؤية تعجب وتحديق مع تكيف نفسه بتلك الكيفية تؤثره في المعين. He says, and one of the differences between the ayn and hasad and those who perform the two is that the one who shoots his eye, he could affect someone intentionally or accidentally. It isn't something that is always on purpose. Rather, he could afflict his own self. He could put the ayn on himself with his own eyes. He's amazed, he's shocked. It's something that he can't believe, bang. And that could be upon his own self as well. Anything, still, moving, inanimate, whatever the case may be, the ayn can be a means of impact. خير إن شاء الله. وقد قال غير واحد من المفسرين في قوله تعالى وإن يكاد الذين كفروا ليزلقون بأبصارهم لما سمعوا الذكر إنه الإصابة بالعين أرادوا أن يصيبوا بها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فنظر إليه قوم من العينين وقالوا ما رأينا مثله ولا مثل حجبته وكان طائفة منهم تمر به الناقة والبقرة والسمينة فيعينها ثم يقول لخادمه خذ المكتل والدرهم واتنا بشيء من لحمها فما تبرح حتى تقع فتنحر. وأورد رحمه الله جملة أقوال ثم قال والمقصود أن العين حاسد خاص والضر من الحاسد. ولهذا والله أعلم إنما جاء في السورة ذكر الحاسد دون العين لأنه أعم فكل عين حاسد ولا بد وليس كل حاسد عائنا فإذا استعاذ من شر الحاسد دخل فيه العين وهذا من شمول القرآن وإعجازه وبلاغته. The author then states, many scholars, they have said that Allah Azza wa Jall's statement, and those who reject faith, those who disbelieve, they would almost make you fall down. They would almost make you slip. They would almost make you hit the ground بِأَبْصَارِهِمْ with their eyes. لَمَّا سَمِعُوا الذِّكْرِ when they hear the dhikr, since they've heard the dhikr. Many of the scholars of the past, Ibn Qayyim says, they interpreted this ayah to mean the ayn. Is that the kuffar, when they hear the dhikr, they know about you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you would almost hit the ground. They would almost make you fall down and make you hit the ground with their eyes. Khayr, inshallah ta'ala. Moving forward, he then goes on to talk about how they would see the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they would say, we've never seen anything like him. We've never seen anyone like his Sahaba, those who are around him, protecting him, etc. Right? And how people would pass by with things, with possessions. They would say, bring us this, go get some, go do this, and then the animal would die, pass out. Okay? Well, that's a nice cow, that's a nice camel. And then the next thing you know, they will be slaughtering it, etc. Move forward. Now listen very carefully now. Ibn Qayyim, he mentions many statements. The author states is that the ayn, the one who makes the ayn, who uses his eye, he is a type of hasad. So the one who shoots his eye, who afflicts people with his eye, he says he's hasad at the same time, but it's specific type. And he says is that the person who uses his eye, who harms people with his eye, adarru min al-hasid. He's more harmful than the envious one. Think about those words now. He's worse off than the one who has the hasad in his heart. He says, and this is the reason Allah knows best, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned seeking refuge, commanding the Prophet to seek refuge from the evil of the hasid. Ida hasad, when he or she makes or practices their envy. He says, and that is because everyone with the eye is hasad. The must, he says. There's no separation. But everyone who has hasad isn't necessarily one who has the ayn. So when a Muslim seeks Allah's refuge from the hasad, included in that is the ayn. He says, and this is from the comprehensive nature of the Quran al-Kareem. This is from the power of the Quran. This is from the majestic eloquence of the Quran al-Kareem. Is that the Quran is absolutely perfect and flawless. And it is impossible for any human being or any jinni, any created being to have a hand in the Quran al-Kareem, period. It's from Allah. That's the bottom line. Just stop and think about that now. The Messenger of Allah in that surah, he wasn't commanded, he wasn't ordered to seek Allah's refuge from the ayn. But he was only commanded to seek refuge from hasad. That's what Ibn Qayyim states with regards to the ayn has to be based off of hasad, period. What do the other scholars of Islam say about that? Can a Muslim afflict someone with ayn by accident without hasad? Just because they don't mention Allah's name? Or is it a thing which is an absolute must, it's binding, even if the person denies it? I'm not jealous, I'm not envious, I didn't mention Allah's name, I put the ayn on you, but I'm not, trust me, it's not like that. Trust me. Even if he says that verbally, Ibn Qayyim says deep down inside there has to be what? There has to be hasad behind the eye. He says the two are inseparable. Moving forward. وقال الحافظ بن حجر رحمه الله والعين تكون مع الإعجاب ولو بغير حسد ولو من الرجل المحب ومن الرجل الصالح وأن الذي يعجبه الشيء ينبغي أن يبادر إلى الدعاء للذي يعجبه بالبركة ويكون ذلك رقية منه. طيب, he says now, Hafidh bin Hajar obviously came after Ibn Qayyim later on. He states is that the ayn is accompanied with i'jab, amazement, even if it's without envy, as I just stated to you. Some scholars, they may say the opposite, is that a person can have the eye without the hasad, right? He says rather, it could be someone who loves you, someone who's your friend. It could be someone who's righteous. He sees something, he doesn't mention Allah's name in the ayn. Now let's stop, just pause the tape for a second. As I just mentioned to you, somebody may say, why would I be envious of you? You're my son, you're my father, you're my brother, you're my student, you're such and such. What do you mean? We have no issue, we have no problem. Or someone says, Fulan put the ayn on me. How? He's righteous. Look at him. He's pious. He's on the sunnah, so on and so forth. Just because there's ayn doesn't mean that there's hasad. But if you stop and think about it, what Ibn Qayyim said, it's a big possibility that what he's saying is correct. Even if it's someone who loves you, and even if it's someone who's righteous, it doesn't mean that they're free from hasad. Just because it's someone who's very close to you, someone who's normally your friend, someone who has no problem or issue with you, it doesn't mean that that thing that you have, that you're driving, on your wrist, on your feet, isn't something that they always wanted, and something that they never had. Right? Your mother, your father, mother-in-law, father-in-law, they got married years ago. I'm old now, and I used to be strong like you are. My beauty faded. I used to be beautiful. I'm a grandmother now, and so on and so forth. I had my time. I had my day. I had my nikah, my walima, which I was dressed up. I was beautified. I had on my gold and my henna. There's no need for me to have hasad of you. But it doesn't mean that that's not how she feels now. She's 75. She's 80. And the girl is 19. Young, beautiful, about to get married. She's getting married. They're performing the wedding feast. It doesn't mean that the hasad isn't what? Right there, even though it's her own daughter. And just because a person is righteous and pious, once again, it doesn't mean that they're protected from hasad. So one could easily say, and one could easily argue that Ibn al-Qayyim's argument is stronger. And that even if it seems to be an accident, oh man, that's crazy. Oh my God. Or dang, where'd you get that from? That thing falls and it breaks. Oh, I didn't mean it, such and such. I'm not. Even though a person may have been out of amazement in an accident, it doesn't mean that there was an undercurrent of hasad in the soul, in the nafs, that came out controllably or uncontrollably. Everyone understand it? So let's not rush and saying that that's absolutely wrong. Allahu Alam. Moving forward. He says, and the one who sees something that amazes him, he should mention Allah's name. And he should ask Allah for barakah. Mention Allah's name and ask Allah for the barakah. قال ابن القيم رحمه الله في المستعاذ منه في سورة الفلق الشر الرابع شر الحاسد إذا حسد وقد دل القرآن والسنة على أن نفس حسد الحاسد يؤذي المحسود فنفس حسده شر متصل بالمحسود من نفسه وعينه وإن لم يؤذي بيده ولا لسانه فإن الله تعالى قال ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد فحقق الشر منه عند صدور الحسد والقرآن ليس فيه لفظة مهملة Ibn Qayyim then states, in the interpretation of Surah Al-Falaq, he says that the Quran proves and the Sunnah proves is that the Hasid himself, Nafsu Hasid al-Hasid, it harms the one whom he's showing envy towards, period. His nafs, everything about the Hasid is harmful to the Mahsud. Everything about it. Even if he doesn't harm him with his eye, or he says, even if he doesn't harm with his hand or his tongue. And obviously the eye is a part of the Hasid. You see the point he's trying to make? He's saying that the Quran and Sunnah both prove is that the envy of the envious one from A to Z, everything 100% is evil. And it's a means of harming the victim. And from the nafs of the hasid is his eye. So he's further solidifying his argument and proving his argument is that ayn doesn't come unless there's some type of hasid, period. They can't be separated one way or another. Allah Azza wa Jal, he says, Ibn Qayyim states, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. And I seek your refuge, O Allah, from the evil of the envious one when he performs evil, or when he performs envy. He says, so this proves فَحَقَقَ الشَّرَّ مِنْهُ عِنْدَ صُدُورِ الْحَسَدِ, is that when there's hasad, then evil must come. Bottom line. If the hasad is there, then there's shar. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jalla, he says, وَمِن شَرِّ, from the evil of the hasid. And he didn't say, I seek refuge from the hasid. You understand what the surah says? قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. Right? I seek Allah's refuge, the Lord of the falaq. مِن شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. Not مِن شَرِّ الْخَلْقِ or مِن الْخَلْقِ, from the created beings. From the evil of the created beings. From the evil of this, from the evil of that, and from the evil of the hasid. So the hasid, he says, is evil from everything about the hasid is evil. And included in that, and a part of that, is the eye of the hasid. So therefore, the two are inseparable. Ibn Qayyim, he says, in the Quran, listen to this principle, he says there isn't an idle wording in the Quran. There is no word, let alone sentence, which is just there just for beauty in the Quran. Rather, every single wording, every letter has its place and its meaning. You understand this? How Allah put it, how Allah sent it down, how it's worded, that in itself is a meaning behind it. It's not like other books. It's not like other things that are just there for decoration in a person's home, in a person's house. It doesn't suit any tangible purpose. It's just there, just to look good. It's a prop. The thing doesn't actually open up. You have a messenger bag, a laptop bag, and it has the buckles, but there's no buckle. There's a button, right? And the buckle is only there for the style. You understand this? The old school style. You ever see a brother's bag like that? He opens up the bag and it just lifts it up. It's not actually what? This. It's just there for show. It shows it gives you no tangible reason, no tangible benefit. He says nothing in the Quran is just there, just to be there. Every single word in the Quran is there with an intended purpose. وَمَعْلُومٌ أَنَّ الْحَاسِدَ لَا يُسَمَّ حَاسِدًا إلا إذا قام به الحسد كالضارب والشاتم والقاتل ونحو ذلك ولكن قد يكون الرجل في طبعه الحسد وهو غافل عن المحسود لاهٍ عنه فإذا خطر على ذكره وقلبه انبعث نار الحسد من قلبه إليه وتوجهت إليه سهام الحسد من قلبه فيتأذى المحسود بمجرد ذلك فإن لم يستعذ بالله ويتحصن به ويكون له أوراد من الأذكار والدعوات والتوجه إلى الله والإقبال عليه بحيث يدفع عنه من شره بمقدار توجهه وإقباله على الله ولا ناله شر الحاسد ولا بد. فقوله تعالى إذا حسد بيان لأن شره إنما يتحقق إذا حصل منه الحسد بالفعل. Ibn Qayyim then states, it's well known that the hasid, the envious person, isn't called envious except that the hasad is there with him. It's a part of him. And it's something that he does and performs. Like the darib, one who hits or strikes. The shatim, one who curses or swears. The qatil, a killer. because he killed and he kills. It's not just something that's metaphysically on the inside, right? A person isn't called that. He doesn't get the title until he does what? Until he performs it. So if there's hasad, then it's going to be there. He says, however, a man could have some natural envy and he doesn't know about it. He's heedless. He's not paying attention to anyone spewing out any venom, any type of hasad. So therefore, when he thinks about that individual, his mind and his heart, the thought comes to him, the fire is now kindled. And the arrows of envy are now shot at the mahsud. And he will be harmed and annoyed according to how far he is from Allah and how strong the hasad is. The closer he is to Allah, the more adhkar he makes, the more supplications that he performs, the closer he is connected, the tighter he is connected to Allah, the less the harm of the envious one will affect him. And the opposite will be the opposite. The further he is from Allah, the lesser or the less adhkar he makes, he doesn't make those supplications as he's supposed to, then the hasad will have an effect upon him. Waliyadhu billah. Khair inshallah. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala then states, وقد تقدم في حديث أبي سعيد الصحيح رقة جبريل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وفيها بسم الله أرقيك من كل شيء يؤذيك ومن شر كل نفس أو عين حاسد الله يشفيك فهذا فيه الاستعاذة من شر عين حاسد. We've previously mentioned the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, the authentic hadith in which Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam performed the ruqya upon the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, saying, Bismillahi arqiq, in the name of Allah I give you ruqya. Min kulli shay'in yudhik, from everything that bothers you. Min sharri kulli nafsin aw aynin hasidin, and from the evil of every soul, every eye that's envious, Allahu yashfik, may Allah cure you. So this hadith clearly shows is that Jibreel asked Allah for the protection of the Prophet ﷺ from the eye of the hasid. Aynan or ayni hasidin. The nafs or the ayn, min sharri kulli nafs or ayni hasid. The eye of the envious. So Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he's mentioning his proofs over and over again to show you is that the two are inseparable. ومعلوم أن عينه لا تؤثر بمجردها إذ لو نظر إليه نظر لاه ساه عنه كما ينظر إلى الأرض والجبل وغيره لم يؤثر فيه شيئا وإنما إذا نظر إليه نظر من قد تكيفت نفسه الخبيثة وانسمت واحتدت فصارت نفسا غضيبة خبيثة حاسدة أثرت بها تلك النظرة فأثرت في المحسود تأثيرا بحسب صفة ضعفه وقوة نفس الحاسد فربما أعطبه وأهلكه بمنزلة من فوق سهما نحو رجل عريان فأصاب منه مقتلا وربما صرعه وأمرضه والتجارب عند الخاصة والعامة بهذا أكثر من أن تذكر. He then says, and it's well known, is that a person looking at a thing doesn't make a difference. He looks at the mountain, he looks at the dirt, he looks at the road, it's nothing different. And the ayn only takes its place, it only harms based off of the internal hasad. He said that's well known. He says, and that the soul, the inner soul of that person has come out. That's the bottom line, it came out. And his nafs, unfortunately, is full of rage and anger, khabitha, filthy and wicked, based off of that envy, hating someone for something that Allah didn't give to you, etc. He says, and it will have its effect based off of ratios, like the tug of war. Which of the two is stronger? The protection or the soul of the hasid? Now that's food for thought to think about now. You are never to allow your enemy to have a stronger will than you. War is won at the wills, they say. It's won at the wills. Who has the greater willpower? Who wants it the most? You have a competition, a fight, right? This person is better than you. bigger than you, stronger than you. But it's no reason why your hunger should be less than his to win. He's a better player, no doubt. But he don't want it as bad as I do. You know how long I dreamed about winning? My whole life is based off of this one game. That's going to play a huge impact versus the one that's better, faster, bigger. And he, I'll win easily. This guy is nothing. This team is nothing. It's not the same as one who's hungry and has the will. I refuse to lose. I refuse to give up. I refuse to quit. I refuse to take it out. So the one who's connected to Allah, is that stronger? Or is it the evil of the internal hasad which is stronger? You have to, there's no rule. One's connection to Allah could be what? Could be weak. One could be far from afkar. He have a weak relationship with the Quran. His tawakkul in Allah, like we explained in the book. Unfortunately, that may be weaker than the fire of the hasad. We know that the dhikr of Allah, of course, is greater. Of course, that's not the debate. But we're talking about the servant, the slave. Who's more devoted and dedicated to their cause? My connection to Allah or me harming you with my eyes based off of my hasad? Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here, it's like someone who shoots at someone. Obviously, in our times, we have firearms. Back then, they had arrows. So a person is armorless. He's not wearing a breastplate, any chainmail, anything. And he's shot with an arrow, it hits him in a vital point. What's going to happen? Versus someone who's wearing armor, wearing protection, the arrow may hit him, but the impact of the arrow was broken with the armor or the leather, whatever the person was wearing. It didn't penetrate his internal organs. It didn't crack his rib, etc., etc. It says that's the comparison here. So a person could be killed, a person could become sick, a person could fall down. It says in the experience of the people is well known. Al-Khasa wal-Amma. The learned people, the special Muslims, and the 9 to 5 Muslims, they all have experiences with Ayn and Hasad. Khair, inshallah. We'll stop here tonight. And hopefully we'll take some questions. If we have any, if possible. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina.